2nd Ezra 6:27. For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird among the heathen that look like the heathen. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And we're going to talk about the Jacobites of Ireland, the Black Irish. And I'm going to play this short video that I was first turned on to years ago by the brother Wakar Kwam, who did out of England, who did a video speaking about it, because these are his tribe, and then I'm gonna go into some of the history in the book Jacobite Ireland 1685 to 1691. That's by J.G. Sims. All right. And read, some of it, and then give a commentary and some scripture. So, without any further ado, the Black Irish of Montserrat with their Irish accents in the Caribbean, and they even have those features that you see on the average Irish person. All right, especially when you looked at some of those cartoons where they kind of made the Irish look like monkeys, like black monkeys. You can find those images on the internet. All right, and then you begin to put the pieces together as we go into these books. All right, so here we go.
Black Irish of Montserrat.
Unfortunately, it's a bit far to take the wife and family. To be precise, 4,128 miles from Cork, give or take a few. It's on the Emerald Isle, all right, and they'll feel quite at home among its Atlantic beaches, green fields, harps and shamrocks. But the trouble is that this Kinsale is at the wrong side of the Atlantic. It's Kinsale in Montserrat, a West Indian island, the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean, and home of a unique race of people, the Black Irish.
It was under the press gangy of Cromwell that hundreds of people from Cork, Kilkenny and Drogheda were expelled to the West Indies.
So Cromwell, he just let you know the history about Cromwell, expelling Irish, the real Irish, all right, to the West Indies.
They would have arrived just as the first importations of African slaves took place. So, both cruelly uprooted from their homes, Irish and African Negro shared a common suffering, a common grievance, and for the most part lived together in peace.
They also shared a common ancestry, because the African Negroes that they brought from slavery from Africa were not African at all. They were Israelites. They were also Jacobites. All right, they were Israelites who had fled into Africa, fleeing Roman persecution about 1,500 years prior to when they got snatched into slavery.
Peace and common understanding. The home of Mr. and Mrs. Allen is also the local post office. Their soft accents are...
You can clearly see the Irish features on them, and when you look at those cartoons, how they took these features and exaggerated and tried to make them look like monkeys. All right?
Typical of Montserrat, and might easily be confused with the lilt in parts of West Cork.
Now, how did the family come to Montserrat, Mr. Allen?
Well, the Irish people came to Montserrat on account of Cromwell, who was exiled.
That was all we need to hear. They came to the islands, to Montserrat, on the account of Cromwell. They were exiled. So we're going to go into this book, The Jacobite of Ireland, okay? Here, by J.G. Sims, 1685 to 1681. And just going to go to it. It's a lot of information in here that I was trying down. And by the way, the beloved brother Shatia brought this back from Scotland a couple years back, and he gifted me this book, a couple different books. All right, but I've these last few years, brothers have beautiful brother Zadok also sent me quite a few books. But yeah, this is where I want to start. Page 120, and I'm going to read to about 123, and I'm going to read through a couple paragraphs, things that I've highlighted, and then give some commentary. And one thing I'll tell you out the gate, too, throughout this book, I haven't read the whole book. I'll skim through it. But one thing that I've yet to see, when you read about period pieces and you read about Scotland, Ireland, Britain, or any of those places, the one thing that you never hear in anything, any period pieces, any literature predating, that's speaking about or predating Renaissance, you never hear the word Europe. All right, and I've been saying, and presenting the map, that Europe, this is a map of Asia that I keep on deck. All right, and though they painted the portion that they call Europe yellow, it's from Spain all the way across to the Manchurian Plain, to South Korea, North Korea. It's the same landmass. You can go by land and don't have to fly and go all the way to Spain, all right, to the most western end of Europe, all right? And they even call the people that are from what you're looking at, what they refer to as the Middle East, the people from that region, especially from Pakistan and India, they refer to that as Western Asia, and it is. This is all West in Asia. West in Asia, and you do hear about Spain and Asia in the Bible, specifically in the book of 2 Maccabees around the 8th chapter. What you never hear in the Bible doesn't mention Europe once. Doesn't exist. All right? So just keep that in mind about narrative control and things of that nature. But this is page 120. It says, William's hopes of getting the Irish Jacobites to surrender had soon faded. All right? Sending Richard Hamilton to Tyrconnell in January 1689 proved to be a deplorable fiasco. A month later, William had published a declaration promising religious toleration and security of the property if the Jacobites surrender. All right? Then I'm going to jump down to here to the next paragraph. It says, William, with some justification, was suspicious of the English regular army and was not prepared to make use of it in Ireland. He sent Marlborough with 8,000 men to Holland to take the place of the Dutch troops he had brought to England. The commander of the Irish expedition was Schomberg, a celebrated veteran of Louis the 15th Army, who had left the French service because it was in Roman numerals. So I had to, it's been a while. Actually, the 14th, all right, Army, Louis the 14th Army. French service of the time of revocation to the Edict of the Nantes and joined the Elector Brandenburg, who put his services at William's disposal. Schomberg's father was German, but his mother was English. He was now 74, but still active. He was, however, a professional cast of mind, a cautious, fond of deliberate planning, and opposed to improvisation. So once again, we read about Holland and the Dutch troops. We read about Frenchmen. We read about English and German. And not once did you hear anything about Europe. Okay, just to bring that point, make that point point that out. That's a very important, significant point. Jumping to page 122, bottom paragraph. By the end of August, 4 cavalry regiments, 1 regiment of dragons, and 6 more infantry regiments had arrived from England. The total of 18 infantry regiments. 2 were Dutch, 3 Huguenots. Now we're talking about the Huguenots, and I've told you the Huguenots were so-called black people. The Huguenots were the Negroes who the so-called Negroes, the Morenos, the Jews, the Judeans, who were expelled from Portugal and Spain, and many of them also were Moorish into Islam, but they were still Israelites by flesh and so-called black people, and they were some of the most treasonous and cutthroat to their own people, complete and total 2/3. Helped set up America. As a matter of fact, when you think about the movie 12 Years a Slave, all those freedmen, while the rest of the Jake was in slavery. You know how they snatched them up from the north, because those were Huguenot families that came from wealth. All right, and were all involved in politics and in a lot of cases helped to enslave and destroy their own people. The Huguenots also helped to take down Gad in some cases. I mean, they were aligning themselves with Edomites. All right, and as a matter of fact, before I read any further, let me hold that page. All right, I even have a definition of Jacobites in the Winston Simplified Dictionary. But let's get to the Huguenots first. We're gonna go to the book, The Negro Question. All right. And oh no, not the Negro Question, not just yet. I actually got receipts in my phone. Where are these images? Here we go. Why do you how about Shema Shai? All right. Because remember, King James and the Scots were referred to as swarthy. The swarthy hordes of Scotland. Now, the Jacobites, Charles, the second and the first were the son and grandson of King James. All right, just so keep that in mind, because we are going to go into this the Negro Question, the missing link, the Negro Question Part 4. But here we go. Swarthy, all right. To breed, swart, darkly brown, just the highlighted parts. Swarthy, all right. Dark brown complexion, black, dusky, tawny, all right. Now remember the letter that and this is talking about what? Who? The Huguenots. All right. Now remember the letter that Ben Franklin wrote about, the people of America and of Germany and of Scotland and in Ireland and all these different places. We have to read that dude being of the swarthy complexion, or tawny complexion. But here we go. These are Huguenot Protestants, same as the Jacobites. All right. It says, and will the third of equality unprocessing characteristics, namely Jeremy Fevre, the minister from the can't pronounce that word, very tall, black and frizzy hair, swarthy complexion, wide nostrils, and coarse, thick lips. Also talking about the Huguenots. All right. This is from the book, The Huguenot Protestants. All right. Northern Notes and Queries of the Scottish Antiquary. All right. Meaning antiquity. All right. By Reverend A.W. Cornelius Halen, established in 1886, I believe it says. Once again, Volume 4, The Huguenot Protestants. So we're talking about Jacobites here, proving that they were swarthy, and that's why they used the word black and came up with this thing called black people. They replaced the word swarthy, they replaced it with black. All right? Because those are images of King James on the cover of that book. All right. And here we go. Let's get to these parts in the book on page 12. It says the beheading of Charles I from the Solemn League Covenant, image of Scottish King Charles I from Patrick Little Oliver Cromwell in perspective. And here the image is on page 12. You can clearly see that he was a so-called black man, his hands bound. They're about to chop his head off in his hat and his thick lips. But it says the image is the actual eyewitness account of the black King Charles I, King of Scotland, who was being prepared to be beheaded by the English. And this is when the Edomites had taken it over. I did everything in my power to try to pull the image off the canvas to show you the king's face, but I couldn't. This is all I could get. All right. And yeah, you can see him being, about to be beheaded, Oliver Cromwell perspective. All right. And on page 13, it says the location the son of King Charles the First, and whose nickname was Black Boy. So King Charles' nickname was Black Boy. All right. He was the king of England, Wales, France, Scotland, Iberia, Spain. Hadn't mentioned anything about Europe yet. Remember, Europe is a social construct that they created, just like they created black. When they replace, swarthy and replaced it with black, they took the portion of the landmass that they call Europe today, out of, that's why it's called Eurasia, because it is in Asia. But they took that portion and started calling it Europe so they could support all this made up white superiority stuff that they created, this whole Caucasian and white people thing, which is completely and totally made up. All right. But he was the king of England, Wales, France, Scotland, Iberia, Spain, and Ireland. Now remember the letter that matter of fact, let's get that. I have that on deck. We have that receipt. The letter that Ben Franklin wrote in 1751. And it was called Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind, 1751. And, people try to make mockery, say he was drunk and all this other stuff. But the last paragraph, paragraph 24, it reads, which leads me to add the remark that the number of purely white people in the world, and there was no such thing, they made it up, in 1681, not even 100 years before, prior to this letter was written, right? Because they weren't called themselves that before that. But it says that the number in the world is proportionally very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Remember that word black and tawny again. Tawny is also exchangeable with swarthy. Asia chiefly tawny. So Asia, all of Asia, from Spain. And he's going to prove it. All right. From Spain all the way to North and South Korea, to Japan. All right. From the most western point of Asia, where it touches Africa, all right, where it's sitting over Africa, to the most eastern part of Asia, where it's facing the Pacific Ocean. All right. And it says Africa is black and tawny, Asia is chiefly tawny. All right, America exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. So it said Americans were also tawny, swarthy. The natives were indeed copper-colored, brown complexioned, swarthy people. All right. It says, and in Europe, remember, prior to the Renaissance, there is no literature where you can find anything this calling that portion of Asia Europe. All right. It says, and he already told you that all of Asia was swarthy, was tawny. It says, also in Europe, the Spaniards, the Italians, The French, the Russians, the Swedes. Now, see, the Russians and Swedes, we're talking about Asia here, all right, are generally of what we call swarthy complexion. He just let you know that Spaniards, Italians, French and Russians and Swedes are all swarthy. And the reason is because Negroes were in all those places. The Israelites were scattered in all those places. And were the ruling class people in all those places during the time of the Dark Ages. Facts. And all these receipts that I'm showing you is proving this point. All right. It says, I'm going to just jump down to the last paragraph, last sentence. Why increase the number, the sons of Africa? See, then he tried to make them like, they weren't from Africa. All these swarthy people we're talking about were not Africans. All right. By planting them in America, where we have so fair opportunity, by excluding all blacks and tawnies, anyone who's brown complected, increasing the lovely white and red. And red is true, white is not. All right, the so-called white man is red. The Esau Edom, their blood shows forth through their skin. Just look at the image of Glenn Beck. But perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind are particularly, partially is natural to mankind. So, you know, there's just too much evidence proving what I've said. As a matter of fact, back into the book, the Negro question. I like to read the information on these pages 4 and 5, and these are shorts from different books that are talking about the swarthiness of all these people, these copper-colored people that were all across Europe. Professor Winchell Alexander, Our Remote Ancestry, 1815 to 1900, collection of journals. These short black men came from Atlantis, northern Africa, and they overran Europe. They were known as Britons, the Brits. So, you know, basically he's letting you know that the Britons were a swarthy people. The Roman historian Tacitus, the origins of the Black Britons. All right, so now we're going all the way back to the Roman scholar Tacitus. He's letting you know the Britons were black. All right, well, they were swarthy. Remember, they replaced the word black for swarthy. So I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to just keep saying swarthy. The Iberians are black. Iberians, that's Spain. That's where Spain, the whole Irish and Scottish portion of that part of Asia. The Iberians are swarthy people with curly hair. Anthropological Reviews, Society, London, Volume 8. All right. Joseph Riston, The Annals of Chaldean Picts and Scots. These are, all right. He's saying the Picts, who were actually Japhetic people. All right. The Volume 2, pages 7 and 27. The Picts and Brits are brown complexion with curly hair. Swarthy. Ivan Sertima, African Presence in Europe, page 225. The Britons look like Ethiopians. Can the Ethiopians change their spots? It's Amos 9 and 7 there. All right. Albert Churchwood, 1912, Origins of the Evolution, pages 12 and 13. The Black Basque, meaning bodies, all right, the swarthy Basque, were exterminated from Europe. So Oliver Cromwell, after he cut off the head of Charles I, removed the Jacobites, and I'm gonna read the definition of Jacobite from the Winston Simplified Dictionary, 1933, with biblical references. All right, and matter of fact, he even got Jacobean in here. All right. It says a person pertaining to the time and reign of James the First. All right, so we're talking about King James's bloodline. All right, a Jacobite. In the English history, the supporter of James II after the dethronement, also the supporter of the claim that the throne of the son of the grandson of James II, known respectively as the old and young pretender. All right, so the history of the Jacobites is the history of the Irishers, the history of the Negroes, which is the history of the Israelites. You know. So was it Luke? What is it? Luke 12 and 2, pretty much tells you that everything that was done in the dark, shall come to the light. Roughly paraphrased, so one could put it on the comment board. But this was some important history that I just wanted to share. The elders were just did a sit down and said we need to get back into that history, especially history that proves that what the Hebrew Israelites are saying is true, and that the so-called white Christians, what they're saying is false. Kol halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakah HaKodash Kwam Yasharala Shalom.